97% of new businesses started and founded by females don't survive the first 5 years, which is a terrible, horrifying statistic. Jemimah Ashleigh joins me now. That's a scary number, right?
It's so scary, isn't it? It's absolutely terrifying. And it's not much better for guys, unfortunately.
No.
Which are 95% in the first 5 years.
Who would have thought 95% failure rate is the good number,
Well,
right?
And it's the best of a bad bunch.
Yeah. Now you help people get exposure, build up their personal brand.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, tell me how it is that you do that and what advice you'd give to people who are watching now.
So it's one of the things we get really wrong with business owners, particularly because we like spend this time focusing on our business, right? We're like, we need to grow the thing and we need to get the Instagram and we need to get the thing up. We don't build our own personal brand along with that. Yep. And the rules of sales are really, really simple. We have to know someone, we have to like them, and we have to trust them.
Yep.
So the product can be great, but if we don't think they're a good person, we're not going to spend money with them.
It's so strange because you would never read, like I studied business at uni, you would never read a book that's like, just be a nice guy, and sometimes people just like you and they'll buy you thing.
Don't be a terrible human. It was not in any of my business courses.
But it's kind of obvious, right?
Well, it is now, and I think we've really moved towards that. We saw last year a huge rise in places like Etsy and small businesses making a booming over Christmas because we didn't want to give money to Kmart and to Big W anymore.
Yeah.
We wanted to do that personalised. We've started to realise that if we're buying from a small business, that person's actually putting their kids through school. We're buying food that week. We're paying our mortgage.
Yeah. So what, do you still have people push back and say, oh, look, being an expert in my field is great, personal brand's important, but how does that directly affect sales? Like what, I'm sure you get that all the time. I can see the frustration coming out of
This is my life, guys. It's a really difficult process because until you realise that this is where the new wave of business is coming from, that we want to have authentic leaders and we want to be speaking who we are. And it always comes back to the biggest question of what problem we solve. So who are these people and who are going to be talking about this one thing that we do? But more importantly, why people should be buying from us directly rather than a competitor. And that is where the personal brand really sets you apart. Because I make jewelry, but I can go down the road and go to Kmart and buy something similar. Why would I go to one brand over another? And that comes down to our personal brand. So we look at things really based from just the way we speak. Are you someone who swears? Are you someone that not? You instantly bring in someone else. Are you polite? Are you kind? Are you rough?
Just when you're saying that, I'm just so aware of my body language, trying to, when you're saying all these things.
I
think, did I swear when you came in? What am I doing?
Think, how am I coming across? And down to the clothing that we wear. So the style that you've got on at the moment, killing it, love it.
Thank you. It's better than what I was wearing before. I don't know if you saw the last segment.
Did. Thank you, Ryan. That was certainly not what I was expecting today. But just about that, if you come in wearing a full tuxedo suit, this changes the show completely.
Yeah.
And that consistency, if one day you're wearing a suit and the next day you're wearing sweatpants, this is telling someone really a lot about you subconsciously, because 87% of all the things that we learn about other people, we never verbally hear.
It's all the body language.
It's all body language.
Well, I've got you know that thing, like it was called resting bitch face?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I suffer from I would call it thinking bitch face. So if someone says, hey Ryan, I've got a great idea, I will think about that idea.
You look horrible.
But I always like picture what it would look like, and when I was in radio, I'm like, how would it sound? But me calculating that in my mind would look like, oh, he hates it.
I have resting bored face, and I was like, it just looks like I'm not interested in what you're saying at all.
And I was like, oh, I love it, and they're like, oh, we thought you hated it and you're a jerk.
But this is, again, how we're putting ourselves across. And, it does take, most businesses, we're talking about this failure rate of being ridiculously high, at a minimum 95%. Yep. Most business owners and people who consider themselves entrepreneurs have 11 different businesses before we even start to make money.
Yeah.
So
that's a lot.
So if we're doing this business and then before we get $1 million in the bank, we are going to have 11 different businesses from start to end. We have to carry that across with us. And if we're starting a business and then letting it go and starting another business and letting it go, then we're not carrying that branding and we're not carrying that education and the process the education that we've learnt doing those other businesses.
Do people get their personal brands wrong?
Oh, all the time.
For example, I worked with this girl who was a newsreader on our radio show, and she thought, oh, because I'm a journalist, I'm supposed to be a certain way. But she was actually like one of the funniest people I've met.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh no, I'm my brand, I have to be a journalist. I'm like, well, that's good that you want to be that, but that's not who you are. You're actually really funny.
Be funny.
Yeah.
100%. You should always be funny.
Yeah.
Again, it comes down to, for those positions, I mean, if I'm working with clients, then I'm certainly a little bit more casual than sitting down having a chat with you.
Yep.
And who I am when we're at the bar having a drink later,
Yep.
that is definitely not who we are going to be necessarily around
That's
our
business
grandparents,
Jemimah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to, there are different times for those, but it's about that consistency, and it's about building a personal brand that is authentic to who you are. If I was going to be walking in here in a ball gown and sitting down, you might be like, interesting choice.
Yeah,
interesting choice.
Someone has made a decision.
Not a good one, no. But anyone that has followed any of my stuff will be like, what is she doing? What is going on with her today? Because that is just so inconsistent and so incongruent with who I am.
Yeah,
so
far out.
it's this really, really, we don't see it as being a really, really solid, tangible skill when it's actually something that we need to be building in from almost day one.
Yeah.
To help build our business and help build our brand.
So I guess the figuring out and formalizing a personal brand and putting it out there is a bit of a process. But
Yes.
if maybe people are watching now, they're thinking, oh, this is something that I probably should put some effort into.
Yeah.
What's step one, or what's something they can start thinking about or looking at to kind of get this process started?
The first thing is, don't overthink it too much. Who you are presenting yourself as is generally where you want it to be. Okay. You don't want to be the full journalist if you're very, very funny.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking smack about your friend.
No,
she's great.
Katerina Slavic. You've
Hey,
heard
Katerina.
it here. Get it together.
Be funnier.
Be funnier.
If that's who you are, be who you are. But just cultivate that. Make it sure that you know where that is. I'm not going to be someone that dresses up in ball gowns and goes out to doing things. I'll pick my clothing, I'll pick my language, I'll pick the social media stuff that I'm putting out there. And really, social media, the best way to use that for a personal brand is very simply to tell the story of your life.
Right.
We do cool stuff every day. Shouldn't we be showing other people that?
We should.
And not faking it.
Well, people I think underestimate how interesting whatever it is that they're doing is. Like, I love finding out how people come up with the idea or spend their day.
Absolutely.
I'm a nerd for reading about people's morning routines. That's my because I love
a weird
that.
thing for that too, but I also love watching Instagram stories. And you got up at 5 a.m, girl. I'm impressed.
Yeah. Now, sorry, I just got to reference what we were doing before. Before you were on, there was photos of me doing a bikini shoot in the laneway.
Yep.
Is that going to hurt my personal brand? Is my being an expert and presenter and TV, is that going to hurt this?
Are you going to do it on a consistent basis is the first question.
Well, it's not actually the first time I've dressed up in that rainbow-coloured Speedo.
They're nice. I commit to it. Just keep doing it. I think tomorrow, you should just be considering wearing the whole outfit. Just go for it.
That makes one of us, Jemimah.
I think your listeners will agree. Viewers, I think you're fine.
All right, jemimahashleigh.com.au is where you can get more information and see all the services that Jemimah provides. And like I said, there's a lot of interesting stuff there to unpack, which will help you become seen as an expert in your field. And that obviously leads to sales and trust and people actually wanting to support you. Which is really important. Thank you so much for coming in, by the way. I've been very lonely here talking to the screen.
It's really hard to not hug people immediately when you see them, and just getting out of my office is a bonus thing. Thank you for having me in the studio.
Just pull up a hot desk and work out.
I might just stay here. You'll have to evict me.
All right, thanks so much for joining me today.